tell you, 2020, it's been a crazy year, you know, this COVID-19, it's all kind of, what's going on right now? What's happening? I hope they don't ask me for any money. I definitely didn't ask for this. Well, this is going to be for free. I didn't ask for this. This is happening. I don't believe this is happening. I don't have any money to do it. Can someone hit the rewind button on 2020? Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Maurice Brown Show 5 p.m. edition. Don't hit the rewind button on 2020. I don't want to do it again. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the show an acclaimed Japanese female comedian, ventriloquist, rakugo performer who hails from Australia, a writer, speaker, and actor. She's been featured on TV as a finalist on Australia's Got Talent. And you can also see her on Is Motherhood Overrated, the ABC Radio International Women's Day comedy debate from 2017. And our latest release is Showko, Absolutely Normal. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the show the very funny and the very talented Showko. Hey, Showko, how are you?
Hi, everyone. Hi, Maurice. And hello. And here in Australia, it's good morning. In US, must be good evening.
Wow. What time is it there in Australia right now, Showko?
9 a.m. in the morning.
Wow. My gosh. Good morning.
In the morning. And also, we are ahead of you. 9th of December.
So you've already looked into tomorrow.
Yes, if you want to know about the future, ask me. I know everything.
So, Showko, you're in Australia. Just before we came on live, we were talking about, okay, what is the comedy scene like right now in Australia with the COVID-19 and all the restrictions? What's going on over there?
Oh, yes, it's happening now, slowly opening, because we had a hard lockdown, very strict for 7 months. Like we could only go out for 1 hour a day just for exercise. And of course, all my live show was canceled, and and then we finished the hard lockdown in about a month ago, but still we have lots of restrictions. So that's why comedy gig outside, or comedy gig with the social distance indoor.
Yes.
And it's not really normal yet, but getting better.
I think you guys are closer to normal than we are here in the United States. We're like, I think you guys are getting there. I don't know how much longer it's going to be for us. I have not done comedy live since March. And I'm starting now to get to the point, okay, I'm kind of ready to get back. At first, it was okay because I was getting rest. And I needed the rest, actually. So that was okay at first. But now, Showko, I'm starting to get, ready to get back out there. So I'm glad that you guys in Australia are starting to get to that point where you're going to get back out there. Now, before the pandemic, Showko, what was stand-up comedy like in Australia?
Stand-up comedy is the most popular comedy in Australia.
Okay.
And where I live, Melbourne. Melbourne is the kind of mecca of comedy in Australia. I think more comedians than audience. Everybody's comedian, because we have one of the the biggest, one of the top 3 international comedy festivals in Melbourne called.
That's right. That's true.
Melbourne International Comedy Festival. That's why I think about for 61 years or something. So it's comedy is very big here.
Now, have you done shows on Zoom, on the virtual platform? Have you performed on that level, on that platform?
Yes, I have. as you said, I was at home, and at the beginning, I didn't know what to do. And I never done Zoom show. And because I love to, engage with the audience, I want to feel their, vibes. And then you have to adjust. I have to look at the audience. I have to adjust, right? And then for Zoom, for me, I can't hear their laughter. Am I doing right? And, those things. That's why I wasn't sure if I want to do it. But the lockdown was so long, 7 months. I couldn't wait. So I decided to do Zoom performance and also Zoom workshop. People somehow like to learn from Zoom. So I decided to do lots of workshops. And I created some comedy, like a video short film and YouTube. But some of the organizations found my comedy video, and they actually ordered me to create comedy content. So which is good. So my work shifted, a little bit to more like online content at the moment.
Yeah. I didn't like it at first. I waited about 3 months, and then I finally broke down. I started doing comedy on Zoom. I've done like 3 or 4 stand-up shows, and it's pretty good. I mean, you can see faces on the screen, and it's okay. It's not like being live, but it's not bad. Sometimes people don't really know what they're doing. They're eating chicken noodle soup, and they're sitting up there having conversations with their grandmother and all kinds of stuff. But sometimes, most of the time they're paying attention, but then the laughs, they're delayed like 3 seconds. You tell the joke, and then then you wait, and they go, oh, so, you gotta get used to all of that stuff. So I guess it's okay. I guess it's okay. So I asked you, what is comedy like in Australia? I want to know, what is this Japanese art form of comedy that you do?
Right. Because I do stand-up, ventriloquism, and also I do rakugo. Rakugo is, as you have a stand-up comedy in US, we have sit-down comedy. We kneel on the cushion, we are so Japanese, kneel on the cushion wearing kimono, and we tell funny stories. The rakugo performance is like, rakugo is comedy, but it's not like comic storytelling. And comic storytelling with 400 years of history. And then the performer has to act all the characters by themselves. And while sitting down. And yes, but I added my ventriloquism into the rakugo art form. So I made it more, visual, more quirky and fun. It's not too like East. More my performance is more like a mix of East and West style.
Yes. Now, can you give us a little example of rakugo?
Oh, rakugo. Oh, I should prepare. We use the fine and sensu, tenugui and sensu. Oh, sorry. I didn't bring that, but using the 2 humble props and the sensu and tenugui, and we use that. It's up to the audience imagination. We can do anything with the 2 humble props, and I have to act with the humble props. But I also add my puppets, just a tiny bit. Like I add my handmade puppets like him.
There you go. That's it. That's it, Showko.
Anyway, so maybe you can check out my YouTube. So I don't know.
Absolutely. I would love to. I actually watched some of your shows on YouTube, and it's very interesting. And comparing the Japanese style of sit-down comedy to American style comedy. Like, for example, how long, Showko, did it take for American audiences, well, not American, Australian audiences, Western style audiences, if you will, how long did it take for a Western audience to understand and accept your style?
Right. Good question. I used to live in actually London. And also used to live in Singapore. And Singapore it's still East, but very lifestyle is Western. And lots of Western people live there, and I kind of westernized there. And then when I moved to London, I think that I studied comedy in London, so I learned about the Western sense of humor in London.
Okay.
It took me about, I think, 3 years.
3 years.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think, you know, I'm still learning. You know, I think the comedy is never perfect. I'm learning, I think, until, you know, until I die. So but I think it took me 3 years or something, and to really know about the you know, sense of humor, and I have to twist and tweet and
yeah. Well, obviously, speaking, not necessarily speaking, of course, you speak English, but you are coming from a different culture. And so trying to get that style from another culture to work in another culture, it's got to be a challenge. I mean, because stand-up comedy just by itself in its own culture is difficult. It takes a long time to really understand audiences, how to read demographics, how to make adjustments, how to tweak your jokes. All of that's tough anyway. So when you're coming to a whole new culture, I'm trying to imagine how long it took because obviously, Showko, your style is being accepted, you're having success. And I was just wondering, well, my gosh, how long did it take you before you figured out how to make it work? You know?
Yeah, I still, you know, figured out some new style. I have to always try it out.
Yeah.
I always have to try new materials to figure out, then adjust and keep adjusting and make it happen.
Now, for American audiences also, Showko, like, you know, in comedy, you got to have a punchline. That's the line that, all right, everybody's laughing. And did it take a long time? I'm sure it took a long time for you to understand how to get your punchline in your style to work in an American audience. What did you learn about that?
Yes, for stand-up, punchlines has to be much quicker. I think you guys, like, we need to have you need to have a laugh like every 5 seconds or 10 seconds. Punchline is very very quick. But rakugo is more like a storytelling, and that's why first when I did it at Edinburgh Fringe Festival, audience said, "Wow, that's really interesting." More like they are enjoying more like a comedy theater, not like a stand-up comedy. So that's why they didn't expect, you know, laughter every 10 seconds or 20 seconds. But they gave me the comment. It took quite a long time to, you know, hear the punchline.
Yeah.
So I thought, oh yeah, okay, maybe I have to adjust it, and then I decided to add lots of more small jokes to reach their main punchline. And I lots of punchline in the story. Otherwise, it doesn't work. Depends on the venue, though. Depends on the venue.
Look, I like what you're saying, and what you're saying is very true. There are two things about American audiences about the 5 to 10 seconds. I'm a storyteller like yourself. I like to tell stories, but I have to get the audience's permission to tell a story. So the first 2 or 3 jokes has to be funny right away.
That's exactly to grab their heart.
Because now they like me. Because American audiences are very impatient. So they're very impatient. You know, you got to make them laugh right away. Now they like you, and now they will listen. Now they will listen. Now that's one, Showko. That's one. Here's number 2. The longer you're doing comedy in America, the more comfortable you become on stage, to where you don't care if they laugh or not. You're going to say whatever you want to say. If you don't like my story, I'm so comfortable on stage that they're going to listen to me because I'm in control.
Yes.
I'm in command of the room.
Right.
So that's the second stage of American comedy, getting good enough where you're comfortable with silence. You see what I mean? And now the audience they'll listen to anything you say.
Yes.
And so that's the next stage of it.
They are already your fan, so they listen to you. Anything.
They're gonna listen. They're gonna listen. So,
That's
but
so
yeah,
true.
I like what you said, because American audiences in general are very impatient. You know, they're very impatient, and you have to take command of the room right away. You have to take control.
Yes,
and then they'll be quiet and they will listen. But you got to do it. It takes and Showko, it takes a long time to get that confident on stage.
Oh yes, in Japan we have to be sure, and I perform in Japan as well. In front of the audience, we have to show not the power, more like I'm a nice person. Don't worry, I'm not gonna hurt you. You know, that kind of friendliness and the niceness you have to show. But if you do this in Western country, they think, oh, she tried to be liked. You know, that it's different attitude.
Got it.
That's what I learned. Yes.
I was reading an article. No, that's a very good definition and explanation. I like that. I was reading an article about an experience that you had when you went back to Japan, because in America, comedians like to do crowd work.
Oh, yes.
And talk to the audience and say different things. Sometimes we have mean comedians and they make fun of them. I don't like doing that. But some comics, they like to do it. But whatever, it's crowd work. And I read an article where you were saying that in your country, that wasn't a translatable thing in Japan to do crowd work. Yes.
We don't have the word crowd work because in Japan, actually prohibited. We can't talk to you can't do the crowd work.
Oh, wow.
When I moved to London and even the US, I performed US before twice, and then the comedians talking audience, but in Japan it's really we prohibited. But I learned so much in London, and I used to talk to audience to warm up. You know, and they actually the audience judge us if I can do good crowd work. Oh, she's a good comedian. So I have to do the crowd work to get the trust as well. Break the ice, or maybe in a sense. But I learned so much about the crowd work in Western country. Then I moved back to Japan, and I perform in Japan for Japanese audience. And then because crowd work is my habit, I did that. And one of the great rakugo masters was watching me. He was so upset because I broke the rule. And after here and at the backstage, well, I would switch.
Well, the article that I read concerning crowd work, as you guys don't call it that, but you were in Japan and you were kind of trying it, and you embarrassed an audience member. He became so ashamed. And then you learn, oh, no, I can never do this again. So is that what happened? What your teacher, your master was there watching? Did he see that?
Yes. There are many masters. We call masters, doesn't mean my teacher, but he was one of the biggest master in rakugo industry. He was watching, and it was really, it's just so upset, very quietly upset. And then he called me, and then it's just that we can't do this. This is just a certificate. They know that people are always shy, and they just want to comfortably watch and enjoy. They don't want to have any interaction at all.
Well, you know what? That's not going to happen in America. And nobody wants to sit in the front row, because the comedian's going to say something to you. And it may not be a mean thing. Like, I say nice things to the audience members. I might ask a question as part of they don't know they're a part of my joke, but I'm not making fun of them. I'm using them to set me up, to throw my punch. you know, or something like that. Now, the other element that we have here is called, we have hecklers. So we have the rude audience members that want to interrupt your set. Have you had any experience with that, and how do you handle it?
Yes. Again, only I think the beginning of my comedy career. Now, luckily, maybe audience know about my style of comedy. That's why I don't need rude audience. They just come and enjoy their time. They just want to laugh. It's no heckler.
Nice. Very
so
good.
nice. Very nice. Yes, maybe I attract a very nice audience, and I really appreciate that. But at the beginning, very beginning, and also I just started comedy in London. I was maybe also nervous. I was not confident enough. That's why I used to have lots of hecklers.
Yeah.
And I just didn't like it. I couldn't handle it at the beginning because never happened in Japan.
Yeah.
So I was shocked. Why? But I decided to, deal with it because, I decided to do the comedy in Western country.
Yeah.
And sometimes I even couldn't hear what they said. They used a very strong, slang, or we don't use like swearing words in Japan. We don't have such a words. And I couldn't understand. So when I couldn't understand, excuse me, are you 30? You want a green tea or something? And I just, say whatever,
Yeah.
And it changed the topics. As long as I made them laugh, they settle down. So they
will settle down. Exactly. And that's when you're dealing with hecklers, you don't want to go to the emotion that they're in. You have to stay up here. And if you're a nice comic, now if you're one of the mean comedians, they will destroy these people. There are comedians.
Yes, I saw that. The audience left from the comedy room because the comedian has power with the microphone. She is so mean to the audience. Yeah. And the audience cry and left. I was so looking at
yeah, it's bad. But those are the two types of comedians. But the number one thing is, like you said, you have to be confident when you're dealing with them. You cannot, lose your confidence. You have the microphone. You're in charge. You don't have to be mean, though. You don't have to. I had a experience, Showko, where a guy, he got mad at some of the jokes that I was telling, and he ran towards the stage. He was going to attack me, right? And I said, "Oh, everybody, it's okay. It's okay. It's okay." He's excited. I promised him after the show, we're going to go chase Pokemon. It's okay. And so everybody started laughing, and he went and sat down.
Oh, well done.
But here's the key. I wasn't mean. I didn't get mad. And he sat down and he actually started talking to himself as he walked away, but he was so embarrassed he didn't say another word. So, but there are all kind of things that you learn when you're on stage, because I think American comedy, Showko, is very difficult, and it's a very hard thing to master. And because you're talking about all these different personalities, you're talking about people you probably wouldn't talk to in real life. And if you're standing in front of a Walmart, you would never talk to that person, But now they're here, and you got to make them your best friend for the next 30 minutes, which I actually think it's kind of a miracle for comedians that can actually pull that off. It takes a long time, Showko, to really get to the point where you master the ability to do it. And you know what? You have to fail a lot.
That's really true.
And we call that a bombing. You go up there, you got to bomb a lot. Let me ask, what is the worst experience for you that you've ever had on stage?
Everything sounds like all the experience in London, but because of the London was my beginning of the comedy, so that's why the worst things also happen in London as well. And just after I finished my performance I did a very good gig in Philippines.
Okay.
And that was, I'm so new comedian, but they are so happy that in Philippines, I received lots of laughter and even the standing ovation. And I was like, I'm like in heaven, so happy. And then I did the same material.
Yeah.
And that was the wrong things I did was I tried one of those gong show. Do you know the gong show?
Yeah.
And
yeah.
They want to booed me. And as soon as I went on the stage, I think London Comedy Store gong show, not even the proper gig, like a gong show.
Yeah.
And then I was so proud of myself. I did such a great gig in the Philippines, and that time was I think 16 years ago.
Okay.
And then London stand-up comedy scene was like a more white men, mainstream.
Yeah.
I was a wrong comedian, like an Asian woman with a strong Japanese accent and even poet.
Yeah. Yeah.
As I came onto the stage, they saw my face and looks and I woo.
Oh,
and
wow. Oh my gosh.
I opened my mouth, hello, and they hear my accent and woo, and they brought out my puppet. Woo.
Oh no.
Oh, that was hard. I didn't know what did I do. Even I haven't made any jokes yet.
Yeah.
And then, that was the worst. But now I became strong. Any situation.
You became strong.
Mm-hmm.
That's what those experiences, when you come back, when you make up your mind, I'm coming back, you just got stronger.
Mm.
You just got stronger.
Mm.
And you start to develop this bulletproof vest over your spirit.
Mm.
The more that it happens, the stronger you get and the less those bad experiences occur.
That's true.
Because of that armor. You built this armor and you get to that point, you know what I mean? Where, and it's not to say that it's never going to happen again, because in comedy, that element of failure and bombing, it's always in play. I don't care how good you are. You can have that one bad night in front of the wrong demographic because you had too much confidence. You were too sure of yourself. You knew you were going to kill, and you bomb.
I know, even same jokes. Yes.
Yeah, and you bomb, and then you start to realize you have to respect the craft of comedy every single time.
Exactly.
Every time. And you learn that. You learn that over the years too. But how do you learn that, Showko? You got to fail.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
You go, oh, I'll never do that again. Or I'm going to do more of this, all these different things. And it never stops. You never stop learning. And then the only way you can do this, Showko, is you have to love it.
Yes.
You know what I mean? It's like, I don't like it when I bomb and when I fail, but you know what? For some reason, like, I'll be back tomorrow. There's no doubt about that. I'm coming back, right? And it doesn't feel good, but I love it more than feeling bad. I love it too much. And consequently, you get stronger. Let me ask you this, Showko. So when that happens to you, are you the kind of person that can immediately go, I'm done with that, it's over, and move on? Or do you think about it for a few days and then you finally, after you're able to go on? Do you get that out of your system immediately, or does it take a while?
For me, take a while, but when I just started, took long time. I always thought about it, but now I think I have more experience. So I knew that it doesn't, it's try to more focus on what worked.
Yeah.
Which worked. And then instead of I shouldn't do this and do that. And the best thing is do another gig. Do another great gig. And then that's the best medicine, I think.
Yeah, get it out of your system as soon as possible.
Yes, yeah. It's of course it's you need to learn from it, but it's no point feel sorry for myself, or I shouldn't do that, do the the blah blah blah. So yeah.
Now, Showko, how long have you been doing comedy?
16 years now.
16.
I mean, including the rakugo and the stand-up and ventriloquies. Sometimes I lived in Japan and different countries. So sometimes I only did it in Japanese as well. But yeah, total 16 years.
Okay, so we're talking about 16 years of comedy. What out of 16 years, Showko, what is it that you have learned about comedy? The one thing that you have learned about comedy that has made you a better comedian?
I think one live show is better than 100 times practice at home.
Wow, I love that. I love that.
Don't you think?
I totally agree with that. I totally agree with that, because the reality is, you can stand in front of a mirror forever and a day, and it will never compare to standing in front of 100 people or 10 people. It will never compare to that, because you can tell yourself you're funny all day long if it was just you, but other people have to tell you that you're funny.
Yes.
And so I totally agree with you. You got to get on stage a lot, as many times as you possibly can. Now, let me say this, Showko. There is one comedian that I know of who's one of the best comedians of all time, and his name is George Carlin. Are you familiar with George Carlin?
George Carlin, right?
George Carlin. Look him up. Look him up. He's from the 1970s. George Carlin had a different style. However, before I say this, I also want you to understand he'd already been on stage thousands of times since he was a kid.
Wow.
So what he developed was the ability to write an entire 1-hour set without going in front of anybody. He would just write it, and then he would go, "Oh, that's funny. Oh, I love it. I think this is ready to put out in front of people." But he would do a paid special in front of thousands of people, and he would kill.
Wow.
He would kill. He was able to write it out to his own satisfaction and dominate.
He's got a God-gift talent. Wow.
Well, he had the talent, Showko, but he also had thousands and thousands and thousands of appearances on stage from the time he was a child.
Right. That's right. That's it.
So this performance was not a foreign idea or experience for him. You see what I'm saying? I mean, he was a pro from the time he was a child. His mother and his father, they were entertainers. So he had that in his background. So he got so good, Showko, over time, that he had the ability to sit down and just write it and then go do it, because he was so confident from all the experiences that he's had on stage. And just like you said before, you got to get up there one time in front of an audience is worth 1,000 times in the mirror.
That's so true.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, what you're saying is correct. You've got to get in front of a lot of people, and you got to perform a lot, and there's a lot of failure involved. Let me ask you something about nervousness, Showko, because a lot of comedians, we all get nervous, even if you're doing a theatrical play as an actor, whatever, singing, dancing, whatever. We're all performers. We all get nervous. We get butterflies. How do you handle getting nervous before you go on?
Right. And I tell myself, nervousness is good. You should have a little nervousness. Otherwise, you'll be too relaxed on the stage, and then you forget about whatever I want to say. So, and then I always make a solitude time before onto the
Yeah.
stage,
Yeah.
backstage, and away from everybody, and then so chill time, and to pray and for gratitude as well. Always I thank. Usually I want to take maybe for a few minutes, but if I don't have time, I at least for 30 seconds. I really thank thank you for this, to let me on the stage again, and please help me to make audience, instead of me, I want to make audience happy and laugh, and they might have a hard day, and then they come to pay to enjoy. That's my job, to make them entertain them, make them happy, make them
Yeah.
I don't know. The comedy really changed our attitude, and it's really good for mental health and physical health even. So I really think I just more like my ego base, not me. I'm funny, and I really want to serve them to have a good feeling. And
Yeah.
I it's a prayer for this, and I thank for this, and thank the audience coming for this show, blah blah blah. And then at the end, I say always, not impressing, but blessing. Not impressing audience, but blessing audience. That's
nice. I like that. I like that.
Yeah, that's always, yeah, do that, and then onto the stage. So I more feel like I can be myself.
Yes, that's very good. That's very good. I have comedians have different ways to stay calm, and it's always funny and interesting to me to watch how different comedians get ready. I have a comedy friend. He's really good. He's really funny, but when it's time for him to go on stage, maybe 5-10 minutes before he goes on stage, you can't get near him. He doesn't want anyone to come near him.
Right.
He has this space, right? And he doesn't have to articulate, stay away from me. You can see that you must stay away from him, right? He's like in this zone, right? That's his style. That's the way he prepares, and that's fine. I mean, that's how he does it. When I get to the venue myself, Showko, I don't look at my notes. When I walk into the venue, I'm done with my notes. I don't want to see anything on paper that I've written about what I'm going to do. So I make sure I don't look at my phone. I don't even think about it. I just enjoy the evening until it's time for me to go up there. And because I feel like if I have to look at my notes to make sure I know my material, it makes me more nervous.
That's right. That's so true.
You know what I mean? It's like, if I don't know what I'm going to say by the time I get to the venue, I should go back home.
Yeah. That's true.
Yeah, so I try not to do that. So when they call my name, here's the other thing: 10 seconds before I go up there and grab the microphone, I go, how am I going to remember all this stuff? I'm like, I don't know how. And I grab the microphone and I just go for it.
Wow. But that's
anything, because I practiced, and that's why I don't look at my notes anymore. I make myself and do it. And because I have practiced, it always comes out quickly.
Yeah.
Every time.
Practice gives us confidence. Yes. And then, yeah.
I don't even know how in the world it happens, Showko, because, well, all the glory to Christ. I give all the credit to him. But I look at myself after the show on video and I go, I can't believe how calm and composed I look, because I'm not feeling that way on the inside. I'm like, man, I hope I can remember this one and that. But it always comes out, perfectly, just the way that I wanted to come out. So and that's because of practice, failure, but you keep going, and you master it. You just get it, but you got to keep practicing. It's not an easy thing to do.
No, not easy, but I love it, so I can't stop doing it.
There it is right there. See, that's why. because
what
you
to
love
do.
it. You love it.
Yes. I do also acting, but then
So
I remember,
Showko,
and then acting. The teacher told me that why you choose comedy. It's
yeah,
comedy is the hardest things. You have to keep creating new material, and
yeah.
it's much. Acting is also amazing art form, but comedy is the hardest, art form. So, but for me, why? I don't know. Because I love it. That's the answer.
Yeah, there's really no explaining why we love stuff like this. I mean, people that do what we do, I always tell my wife, I feel like a daredevil before I go on stage. I feel like I'm going to get on a motorcycle and go jump over 20 cars or something. And the feeling of adrenaline, the exhilaration, the excitement, I love that feeling because you don't, man, I don't know what's going to happen, but this is going to be fun. So,
Like a roller coaster. I don't need to.
and at the end, you know,
Yep, that's right. That's right. So that's why, yeah, I'll keep doing. I'm keep doing it.
and one more thing, Showko, I like what you said about it being the most challenging art form that exists. I think that stand-up comedy is the purest art form that exists in entertainment. Because of the degree of difficulty and challenge in getting something back from an audience. Like you can be a great singer, but the audience has to receive. You don't have to necessarily get anything back. They're going to listen. If you're acting, they're going to listen. If you're playing an instrument, they're going to listen. If you're doing improv, which is also very difficult too, by the way. Comedy improv is difficult. But still, you're performing with 6 other people. So there's a safety net. You know what I mean? But when you're doing stand-up comedy, it's just you versus the entire room. And you have to like control them. I compare it to taming a lion. Being a just, all right, sit down, get back. But anyway, but I like what you said, though. I think it is the most challenging art form that exists, stand-up comedy, without a doubt. You're 100% correct. Let me ask you something, Showko, about remembering material. How do you remember all of your stuff?
How do I remember all my materials? I always, I write.
Yeah.
And just, the first read, and then after that without the script, and then just, I just have to perform myself. Practice. What else? And then when I have new material, I like to try out before the big stage. I go to the maybe open mic and then try it out with the audience to make sure it work. Or if I don't have time to do the open mic, maybe I have a set. It's been doing this for a while, and I know it worked. I know it works, and then I add a little bit of new jokes between the the good jokes already I've done, and or try at the open mic. But anyway, I tried in front of audience.
You ever watch Jerry Seinfeld?
Yes.
Jerry Seinfeld, kind of to go back to what we were discussing about 20 minutes ago, Jerry Seinfeld said that there's a joke that he always tells that gets a laugh every time. And he was so confident about the joke, he was thinking about his routine because he knew this one was going to work. Like, this is they're gonna love this. They're gonna die laughing on this joke. He already knew that, and he tells the joke, nothing.
Even him.
Just nothing. He said it was the first. He said it was the first time he'd ever told that joke, and he didn't get anything. They just looked at him like he was crazy, And he said it was something about the overconfidence that a comedian can have that can spoil his routine. because he didn't respect the craft of the joke, of the craft of comedy. Never take your jokes for granted. Do it with the same precision and sense of urgency every joke like it was the first time.
Oh, that's exactly, that's what I wanted to. I always, especially the jokes I'm always using like many times. I know it works. That as jokes I use more than I always tell myself this is the first time, and I have to. The joke is old joke. I have to use as like a first time. If the joke is new, I have to use as like a old joke. Like, and I've done this 100 times, but actually this is first time. But if it's I've done this 100 times, I have to use this almost like a first time. So that's that's exactly.
So what I do, Showko, I try to cycle my jokes out. Of like I'll have 3 to 4 or 5 jokes that I know works every time, but I won't tell them for several weeks because it'll get too old for you.
I know.
You know what I mean? It'll get too comfortable. No matter how hard you try to fight it, you've just got to take a break from that joke for a while. You know what I mean? To keep it fresh. So, so when you tell it,
true. Yes.
Sometimes spit it out the way that it needs to be spit out.
Yes, that's true. And the good things about me, I'm doing the stand-up and rakugo and ventriloquism, and that's why when I'm, sometimes I want to do mix. Sometimes I go to just the stand-up, and sometimes I go to the ventriloquism, and I keep fresh myself. It's
You mentioned open mics, and I was going to ask you because you've been doing this for a long time, but do you do a lot of open mics?
No, not so much.
Okay.
So much, and anyway, it's I used to, but it's when if you really want to try something, I know I can tell them I don't need to sign up. Can I try? And then it's even not the open mic, it's normal comedy club, and I can maybe ask them, can I try new one? And then it's like I ask them to give me a short time. It's not the long proper gig. Then that's not called open mic, but
Yeah. Well, the reason I asked is because the longer you do comedy, the less you will do the open mics. But I find open mics very valuable because of the atmosphere. You have a lot of comedians that are in open mics, so they're probably not going to laugh at you. You know what I mean?
That's true.
Because they're thinking about they get up there. Some of them are writing new jokes, and then some of them don't want you to think that you're funnier than they are. You have that crazy stuff going on. So now, if you go in there and you make those guys laugh, you got some good stuff. You know what I mean? You got some really good material if you go into an open mic full of comedians and you keep them laughing. And in order to expand your material, because I'm writing new jokes and keep adding and adding and adding as many new jokes as you can. The open mics are pretty valuable. And they're hard. I mean, open mics they're not nice to you. The audiences are not nice.
No.
And it makes you tough.
That's very good. And also other things, different from US. America, I don't think America doesn't have lots of festivals, but in Australia, we have so many festivals, like fringe festivals and then comedy festivals and many other festivals. And then especially fringe festivals, a great opportunity to create and establish new material. So let's say like a rakugo, Japanese sit-down comedies. I can't try the open mic. It's too different. Crowd is too different. They don't expect me, that. So it's so I always try my new material at Fringe Festival.
Okay.
Yeah, I forgot. Yeah, that's a great opportunity and then great place to try new material. And the audience, the audience is looking forward to see something new. So it's they don't expect, perfect. Of course I try to be perfect, but
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, of course, audience pay for the tickets and everything. But yeah, I think that's also good way to try something new.
So, do you have any comedy heroes, other comedians that you look up to when you were younger, and you thought, oh wow, I want to be like this person or that person? Do you have any comedy heroes like that?
Oh, when I was young, I was in Japan. So I grew up in Japan, so that's why my comedy hero is in Japanese. But I also, Western comedian. So maybe you don't know, you never heard of it, but let's say downtown Mr. Matsumoto, or like my Rakugo master Kakusho, and also Ken Shimura, and that's okay. Forget about Japanese one. And then what about Western one? Maybe I loved his movie, Woody Allen movie, so that's why. And then also Monty Python, Mighty Bush. Then as a ventriloquist, Paul Zardin, and
I like that you mentioned Monty Python. Monty Python, which is an English comedy troupe. From the 60s. The English humor is quite it's quite rude or crude, but I think they're very funny. English comedians are very direct. It's very to the point, but it's very funny. I love their style of comedy. They're very, very funny. English comedians, to me, they're funny, very, very funny. It's interesting that you mentioned Monty Python, John Cleese, and comedians like that. I've always looked up to myself as comedy heroes. Of course, I've got a lot of American comedian heroes like Bill Murray and Richard Pryor and George Carlin, as I mentioned, Steve Martin, and I can go on and on and on. Canadian humor is very good to me as well. I love it. Very funny. But I was wondering what might be your motivation as far as getting into comedy. Were there people that you looked up to that inspired you to get involved with comedy? So I get it. I definitely appreciate your transparency and just everything that I've asked you today. This has been a great conversation, Showko. We're killing it. I tell you right now, this has been very interesting. And I want to ask you something before we wrap things up. And that is, what advice do you have comedians that are going to get started in this business?
Oh, advice to the starting. Yeah, I think don't blame audience. Yeah, the beginning you do that. Oh, there was bad audience. Because of the audience. My comedy. The joke works last time, but the audience is bad. So don't blame audience. You can learn so from audience.
Yeah.
And then also another thing is be authentic yourself.
Okay.
And when I started, I tried to be like other Western comedian.
Yeah.
And then I used to swear, and then it's not me. And then, and as soon as I became more like myself, more I get more laughter. So you don't need to pretend to be somebody else, and be authentic to yourself.
And that's great advice, because a lot of young comedians try to emulate other comedians that have already made it. Like profanity, for example, Showko. I'm a clean comic, but I work around a lot of young comics that use a lot of profanity. And so what I try to do to them to help them out, I'll pull them to the side and I'll say, hey, listen, if this is the kind of comedy you want to do, go for it. I've got no problem with it. But just understand, you have to be true to yourself. So if you think that, I'll throw some names out. Bill Burr, Kevin Hart, Louis C.K. I can name a bunch of comics that use profanity that are very famous. But if they were on Stephen Colbert or Jimmy Fallon, Jimmy Kimmel, some national platform shows, they would have the ability to do a clean set. You know, they can. So I try to tell these young guys, I said, you're not going to wake up tomorrow morning and all of a sudden be Bill Burr. Bill Burr's already made himself. So and he knows how to be clean. He knows how to do all kind of comedy, but he's so good, he can do whatever he wants. You're not that good yet. So start having the ability to do a clean set. Start putting some of those in your back pocket. And that just goes back to what you said about being true to yourself. Don't try to be someone that you are not.
Yeah, yes. It's so...
Be who you also, I try to say, just try to do some clean sets also. I mean, I don't really like it when guys use a lot of profanity, but if that's what you want to do, I don't tell them to stop doing it, but I want to encourage them to try to be clean. So, Showko, that was great advice. I think that's awesome advice. And you said be authentic to yourself. And what was the first thing you said before that?
Don't blame audience.
Yeah, don't blame. It is never the audience's fault.
But I used to do at the beginning, and then the audience, and then no, it's not.
No, I have to go find a mirror somewhere. Oh, you did it again.
That's true. I need lots of mirror around me. Yes.
Showko. So, Showko, as we prepare to wrap our show up, can you let fans know how they can follow you on social media or maybe even contact you for booking?
Oh, thank you very much. That's fantastic. I think the best way is if you want to book and then come to my website, Showko Comedy. Showko is, as you see, SHOWKO comedy.com. That's my website. Okay. And I have like a YouTube and Instagram, social media. That's at Showko, and you can find all the social media. Or like just type Showko Comedy. So I think only me, Showko Comedy. So
Shofukutei.com?
Yes, ShowkoComedy.com. That's right. Thank you.
So, awesome stuff, everybody. We're talking with Showko, who gave me the ability today to not have to say the entire name. So we're going to go with Showko, and you can check her out at Showfukutei.com. Check her out. Very funny. She hails from Australia. There it is right there. Is that right? At Showfukutei.com.
Yes, that's right. Thank you very much. Wow. That's so quick.
Yes. So Showko, thank you so much for being on the show. And may God bless you, and may the peace and blessings of Christ be upon you and your family. Thank you once again for being on the show. God bless you.
Thank you very much, Maurice. Thank you so much for having me, and I really, really had a good time. And I learned so much from you. Thank you. I hope to see you.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much, Showko. God bless you. Thank you.
Everybody, bye. Thank you.